Hey there, guys. So let's talk about this movie Creed 2 that just came out recently. I just got done watching the movie. I went to see two movies today. The other one was very disappointing. This one was. Can I be quite honest and quite frank here, guys? This movie was a fucking abomination. Oh my god, I don't even know where to start. But let's start with the fact that I've been reading comments online and seeing reviews and just seeing the general consensus about this movie. I'm seeing people say that this movie was epic, that this movie was a great, amazing, inspirational action movie with such intense fight scenes, and everybody loved the movie, and it was so dramatic, and the performances were so inspiring. All the big critics are giving it A's and really high marks out of 10. I honestly, the longer I live, guys, the longer I live, and as days go by, I honestly am convinced that I'm living in some kind of parallel universe. I'm not even kidding. How anybody can have the nerve to call this a great action movie? Either you're stupid, or I don't think you've even seen a half decent action movie in your life before. This was one of the worst fucking movies of this entire year, and that is saying something. Oh my god, this movie was bad. Like, let me just stop ranting and let me get into this movie because I've got a lot to talk about. This is going to be a long ass review. It's going to be a tough one to get through. I'm probably going to have to stop here and there because this movie was so bad that I'm infuriated. And I'm infuriated with how people are lying to themselves about this movie, pretending that this was a good movie. Let's just get into it, shall we? So, first of all, the most important thing about a movie like this, and I've said this whenever I review an action movie, I say the same thing when I review any of them. The most important thing is the fight sequences and the stunt work and the action and the overall choreography of the action. It's a mess in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, the first Creed movie was trash. The action in that movie was shit too, but it wasn't nearly as bad as this. I'm telling you, this movie makes Creed, the original, look like a masterpiece. I'm not even kidding. I thought that movie was bad. This movie is a heck of a lot worse on every level. I mean, let's just talk about it. So, the action sequences. Why is every single, and I'm not exaggerating here, guys, go and watch the movie if you don't believe me. Why is every single fight scene of this movie, every single fight scene, why is every single one of them filmed in a close-up shot where you can't see anything that's going on? All you see is like the top half of their bodies. The fight scenes are so choppily edited together that you could tell so much of it was cut out. There's no stunt work whatsoever. These guys are basically just bodybuilders who are pretending to punch each other. The sound effects. Oh my god, the sound effects. I thought the sound effects in the Rocky movies were bad, but in this movie, it's like every punch sounded like an explosion. When if you ever punched anybody in the face, or if you ever been punched in the face, or if you ever been in a boxing match or sparred with anybody before, when you hit somebody with a boxing glove, it doesn't make a noise like a fucking explosion. Okay, it doesn't. Well, why do these boxing movies always have to add sound effects and weird theatrical choppy edits to these fights? Can you not just use a wide shot? Just use a wide shot and actually have these guys spar. Actually have these guys, throw some meaningful punches. You can do that in an action film without hurting each other if you have proper stunt work. Guys who know what they're doing. But these guys in this movie have no clue what they're doing. They can't do stunts. They can't do fights. It looks like shit. It looks like a fucking pantomime or some shit. It looks ridiculous. Choppy edits, close-ups, overuse of slow motion. Like there's a scene where Creed gets hit with a straight right hand. This actually happens a couple of times. He gets hit with a straight right hand, and then all you see is, oh, like he leans back, and it's like 5 seconds of him leaning back, going, oh, and it's just so dramatic and stupid, man. Oh my god, the fights in this movie were terrible, and every one of them was like that, by the way, from start to finish. So, let's move on from that. Another main aspect of this movie that people are talking about, they're talking about the acting and the story. Are you kidding me? Like, people are saying that this movie has good acting. I mean, the saddest thing about this movie was seeing the absolute corpse of Sylvester Stallone trying to act. It was fucking sad. And the corpse of Dolph Lundgren, just two guys who clearly, I could tell right off the bat, clear as day, they did not want to be there. The only reason that they're in this movie, they really didn't want to be there. The only reason is because if you guys know the history of these guys, in recent years, probably for the past decade or so, Dolph Lundgren specifically, but also to a lesser extent Sylvester Stallone, their box office appeal plummeted. You know why guys like Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme and these guys can't get in big movies of their own anymore. They're always in straight to DVD crap because they've got no box office appeal. That's why they're in this movie. These guys need the money, all right? Dolph Lundgren looks like a fucking broke-ass old fart who, he's been in shit movies in the past decade, movies like Kindergarten Cop 2 and shit like that. The guy can't get any good paying work. He's not in any good movies. Same with Stallone, shit straight to DVD crap that isn't making any money. So they have to go into this movie to pay their bills. And I don't give a shit what they tell us from these Hollywood guys. I don't believe these guys make anywhere near as much money as advertised, because if they did, they would retire. Sylvester Stallone clearly wants to retire. So does Dolph Lundgren. They did not want to be in this movie. That was clear as day. And every single line of dialogue with these characters was the same. How many times did they need to repeat the same conversation about, what are you fighting for? You ain't got nothing to prove. It's not just you now. You got a child and a woman. Why you need to fight? What are you trying to prove? You're not your daddy. I didn't throw in the towel. Every single that's the one conversation that gets used over and over again in this movie from different characters. I mean, it's pretty much the only thing that Stallone talks about, except the garbage ass subplot about how I didn't get to meet my grandson. That's never explained, by the way, why he doesn't get to meet his grandson. But who the fuck cares? Whatever. Dialogue in this movie was repeated, the same conversations over and over and over again. The whole movie, every time Creed is with his missus, it's the same thing. Like, I'm not sure I'm ready for this, and he's got to like pout his lips to show how sad he is and how 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 deep and heartfelt his conversations are, and how he's in such emotional turmoil. I'm having a child, and I gotta prove my name. I don't want to be in my daddy's shadow. All the same shit from the first movie repeated, and it's just cringeworthy. It's laughable. The acting is a joke. Every single actor in this movie was trash from start to finish. That includes Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren. They were never great actors. They were action guys who looked the part. But nowadays they don't look the part. All they are a couple of old farts who need to get paid. Absolute garbage acting. Michael B. Jordan is the same in every fucking movie. He's got to pout his little lips out and go, "Oh, I'm such a deep thinker. I'm so sad." But he's like a spoiled rich asshole, just like he was in the first film. Really unlikable character. Couldn't stand the character at all. He spends the whole film complaining. I mean, the guy's rich. He's got he lives off his mother, but he's also rich now because of his boxing career. He's a world champion and all that. And all he does is complain the whole film about how hard his life is, and it's hilarious. I laughed at several moments, just listening to the dialogue in this movie, the cringeworthy, just boring ass garbage, repetitive, really really poorly written dialogue in this movie, really bad. Another thing I wanted to talk about again. I seem to be having deja vu here. I seem to say this about every movie nowadays. What is with the forced humor? I mean, repeating the same joke from the first movie. Did you take a shit yet? You gotta take a shit before the fight. Ha 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 ha. So funny. I'm in stitches right now. You made me laugh so hard. Oh my god, man. That's so funny. Ha 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 ha. You gotta take a shit, man. Ha 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 ha. What is this? An Adam Sandler film? I'm not even kidding. Like the forced humor in a movie like this. A movie that takes itself way too seriously. A movie that's up its own ass, and you want to force humor in there. Seriously. Fucking dreadful, man. I mean, who wrote this shit? A 12-year-old. That shit wasn't funny the first time in the first movie. Repeating it in this movie is still not funny. Alright, I mean, the characters. I guess the Viktor Drago guy. He didn't. The reason why I think a lot of people seem to like this character, and I didn't mind the character either, is because he didn't have to speak. They didn't really give him much dialogue, much to say, which actually made him more likable because the dialogue and the writing in this movie was so poor that whenever anybody opens your mouth, you just like. Whenever anybody opens their mouth in this movie, you just want them to shut the fuck up because they sound retarded with the shit that they say, with the cliche garbage. This movie was like that. It was. And I guess the Victor Drago guy, because he doesn't speak till like later on in the movie, I didn't mind his character. I didn't really mind him at all. And I will say that, on a positive note, seeing him knock Adonis Creed the fuck out and put him in hospital was quite satisfying. I actually did kind of cheer at that scene. A couple of people looked at me in the cinema because it was packed out, and when Creed gets flattened and knocked the fuck out and put to sleep, I raised my hand. I was like, yes, I enjoyed that scene. I did. You guys knew I would, and I did. But that brings me to another negative about this movie, though. This is something about this movie that I knew it was going to do this, and it did. How predictable was this plot? Let me know. I'm going to explain this plot to you guys, and let me know if you've heard this before from 10 or 12 more other movies, or one movie in particular in the Rocky franchise. Let me just explain to you guys this plot briefly. So, Adonis Creed is champion. He's on the top of his game. He fights Drago's son. If you guys saw the trailer, you guys knew this was going to happen. It was all over the trailer. He fights Drago's son. He gets royally fucked up and destroyed in 3 rounds. Like we all knew that was going to happen. That Drago's son was going to beat the shit out of Apollo, and they were going to dramatize it and try and make it all emotional. He knocks him out, beats the shit out of him, cripples him nearly, puts him in hospital, and humiliates him in his backyard. Adonis Creed then, he considers retirement because he's got all this money, he's got a family, he's got a kid on the way. He's a world champion and all that. He doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. And that's stuck in my head because that was said numerous times in this movie from so many of the characters. They repeated that same sentence over and over about you don't need to prove anything. Your daddy died and all that. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on from the dialogue. So yeah. Then he's going to have a whole long, drawn-out, like, third act of the movie where it's all boring and it's all overly dramatized, where he considers retirement and he's got to recover from his injuries and all that, and then he decides to come back, takes on Drago again, and wins. Did any of you guys did none of you guys see that coming? Like, is there one person listening to this video who didn't see this movie beforehand, who's surprised by that? I mean, isn't that the exact same plot of Rocky 3? Didn't Rocky fight? Rocky was, at the peak of his career, he was champion. He fights this new guy, Clubber Lang, who wants to knock him out. He gets fucking destroyed in 3 rounds. And then he considers retirement, he goes away. And then he comes back and has a bunch of training sequences, and he's advised to retire, but he comes back and and against all odds, he wins the rematch. Isn't that the exact same plot of Rocky 3? Isn't it? Just kind of like how the plot of the first Creed, where Creed was a club fighter, but who got a title shot and ended up losing the fight by split decision, but put up a great effort and won the last round, whatever. Isn't it the exact same plot repeated? These Creed movies are just copying the Rocky movies. It's the exact same plot. I wouldn't even be surprised if Rocky dies in the third movie, just like Mickey died in the third Rocky movie. I wouldn't be surprised if they copied it like that and just copied it word for word. Like this is just a rip-off. The movie's a rip-off, guys. This is insane how people are saying this is a good movie. I'm nearly 15 minutes into this fucking review and I'm already like I already want to just turn it off and just stop and not even upload this because this movie was fucking shit. It was shit. Every acting performance was laughable. Michael B. Jordan is a shit actor. If you think he's a good actor, please tell me why. I can't believe. And again, another thing that I've seen from a few people, I've started to notice a trend about this movie that I noticed about the Black Panther movie. You guys remember when I reviewed the Black Panther movie, which also had Michael B. Jordan, and people were angry at me for saying Michael B. Jordan couldn't act. And I got a lot of people in the comments trying to play the race card and saying that, oh, it's because it's led by a black guy and you don't like that there's a black hero and all that shit. If you guys have been following my review series, do you want me to recommend you some black heroes? For example, you guys would know if you'd followed my movie review series, one of my favourite action movies of all time, one of the best action movies, most underrated action movies ever, is the movie Blood and Bone, starring Michael J. White. Go and check that movie out. You want to see a great action movie with a black guy as the lead role, a black American. Go and check that movie out. Fantastic movie. One of the best action movies of all time. Great stunt work, great acting, original plot, no cliches, no bullshit love interest, none of that shit in that movie. That movie was its own movie. It was a great action movie. Go and check out Predator 2 with Danny Glover, another one of my favourite movies. Great movie, very underrated. All right, better than the piece of shit new Predator movie that came out. Go and check that movie out with Danny Glover. Great movie. All right, one of my favourite like sci-fi action movies. Go and check out Undisputed 2 with Michael J. White. Again, Michael J. White was in Blood and Bone. Great martial artist, great fighter, great actor. A guy who does fight scenes and can pull off stunts, and he can also act too. He someone like that shits on Michael B. Jordan. I cannot believe that movies like that go completely under the radar. Like, people shit on those movies. They shit on Predator 2. Movies like Undisputed 2 and things like that. Again, with a lead black guy. Great movie. And Blood and Bone. No one even talks about those movies. Those movies don't get any critical acclaim at all. Yet this piece of shit Creed gets fucking jizzed all over by critics. People spunking up this guy's back, this Michael B. Jordan, like he's something special because he's a black guy and he's like such an amazing, inspirational black actor who's an action guy. He's a fucking shitty, overrated, bloody, run-of-the-mill, stereotypical guy who thinks he's tough because he thinks he's from the ghetto and he can't act. Okay, this guy can't act. Creed is one of the most unlikable heroes in any of these movies. In fact, I rooted for Drago because Drago seemed like a cool guy. Didn't seem like an asshole. The Creed guy's an asshole. An absolute asshole from start to finish. And again, my favourite scene of this movie was seeing him get knocked the fuck out. I enjoyed that scene. Alright, and obviously the fact he won the rematch, I just laughed at it because it was unrealistic and stupid. Because let's be real, if you fight a guy and you get destroyed in 3 rounds, I know that the fight ended in a disqualification or whatnot, but that's all trivial. I mean, if you're in a real boxing match and one guy breaks multiple of your ribs, fractures your orbital bone, ruptures your kidney, knocks you out cold, and concusses you and puts you in hospital for days to the point where you need physical therapy to recover. How on earth is any boxing commission in the world gonna sanction a rematch? And I mean, a few months later, all of a sudden the orbital bone and the ribs and everything are fixed, and you go in for a rematch a few months later. Am I supposed to believe that you're gonna win that rematch? I mean, oh, guys, man, this movie was fucking dreadful. You get fucked up in 3 rounds and you end up partially crippled. But I'm supposed to believe a few months down the line after a training camp, where you go to the desert and have some shitty training sequence where you run around and you pass out in the heat, but your trainer doesn't call an ambulance. He just tells you to get the fuck up because he's old school. Oh, so cool. So stupid, this movie, man. Unrealistic. I'm supposed to believe he could win the rematch against Drago, really. I'm supposed to believe that. And another thing, these commentators for the fight sequences, you had guys like Max Kellerman commentating. Max Kellerman's been a commentator for years in boxing. Does he not know that a right uppercut to the body is a legal punch? Like, there was a scene where Drago hits Apollo with a right uppercut to the body and it drops him right to the solar plexus and the body, and I guess Apollo's ribs are still sore, so he goes down. Sorry, not Apollo, Adonis. He goes down because his ribs are still sore. Creed. I'm like, why was commentators like Max Kellerman saying that was an illegal blow? That's not an illegal blow, and you know damn well that that's not an illegal blow. Guys, this movie sucked. This was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Don't see this movie, please, and stop lying to yourself saying that this movie was good. It sucked. God bless. Thanks for watching.